Okay, you guys, I want to talk to you about some flaws in the competitive shooting sports. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep modifying these videos until I get them right so that I can have some way to explain something to somebody that they'll understand. And also making sure I get all the things that I want to say because there's always different things that keep coming up that I want to add to the topic of why competitive shooting sports has a lot of flaws in it. And I'm just going to read off 4 basic flaws that I've noticed and that even competitive shooters have noticed themselves that were in the sport. One of the things is the target kill zone is too big. What we need to do is we need to get back to real targets that have organs like heart, spine, cranial vault, stuff like that. What we need is a standard of incapacitation, because what's happening is these big A zones or kill zones that we're shooting at, what we found is that center of mass isn't everything that we thought it was. We thought that, you shoot center of mass and the guy goes down immediately and immediately incapacitated and stuff like that. They don't even do that even when they get shot in the heart. So even a heart shot could take a few seconds or maybe even a minute sometimes for that person to stop. So what we need is a standard of incapacitation that's absolute. So that way we can start off the right way, is having the right targets and having a standard that's more picky, something that's going to force you to slow down a little bit so you're going to shoot better. Hit friendly, no disqualification. Okay, in the competition shooting sports, if you hit a friendly target, okay, let's say that they dock you points or something like that. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what we have to understand is that if you hit a friendly in real life, you cannot take that back. That person could be killed because of you trying to shoot fast, trying to go, not, making sure you know what the threat is, okay? So what we need to do is we need to start disqualifying people that hit the friendly targets, because what that'll do is that'll force you to slow down, because if you shoot that friendly, you're done for that day. No excuses. I'll kick you out. You know what I mean? Because I have high standards. I have high standards for saving people's lives that don't need to be shot, okay? Maybe the police will understand that sometimes. Eventually they'll get it, what I'm talking about here, about the way they train and shooting people that don't need to be shot and stuff like that. Number 3, not real stress under time, but performance anxiety. Okay, what they'll tell you is they'll tell you that the reason why we have stopwatches and stuff like that and we go real fast is because we want to create that real stress, right? Well, it isn't the real stress that they're creating, because they don't see the target as a real threat with a gun. What they're seeing is that their time, performance anxiety, they're seeing their time as the threat rather than the person. In other words, what they're doing is they're saying, oh my gosh, my time, I want to beat my old time. So they're focused on speed. They're focused on beating their old time or beating somebody they're competing against. So it's performance anxiety. It has nothing to do with real world fear, with seeing the target as a threat. If you don't see the target as a threat, whether it's cardboard or steel, then you should think again about focusing too much on your speed, okay, and beating your old time, because that's a different type of stress. That's performance anxiety stress. That is not real danger stress. And that's what these people are saying is, oh yeah, it's going to be like the real world if we make you go fast and stress you out and stuff like that. No, it's just the opposite. It's performance anxiety. You're focusing so much on the speed that the speed is the Achilles heel. If you guys know what the Achilles heel is, that saying, your speed is the Achilles heel. It's actually hurting you. Now, speed is a good thing, but if you focus on it and you worship it, and that's all you think about is your speed and your mag changes and stuff like that, then that's wrong. So we'll go to number 4 here, rushing out of cover, getting exposed to gunfire, self-ambush. Okay, what this is moving faster than you can assess what's going on. So you're coming around the corner, okay? And let's say you got 3 opponents and you're going to double tap each opponent, okay? But we're talking about the old standard, not my standard that I set up here, what 4-inch target. Let's say you got an A zone and you're hitting 2 shots on each target, okay? Now, one of the problems with rushing out of cover is the fact that we can only kill one person at one time. We can only incapacitate one person at one time. If we have 3 guys with guns, we have to take out that first target without exposing ourselves to targets 2 and number 3. Why? Because number 2 and number 3 might have guns. And if we're still working on target number 1, then target number 2 and target number 3 could still be shooting back at us. Or let's say you had a quick double tap on target number 1, if it was real life, for instance, and you transition to number 2 and number 3, but target number 1 isn't down yet. He isn't incapacitated. He's still shooting back at you. Well, what good does that do? It doesn't do any good. So that's why I keep going back to Clint Smith, talking about there is no stopwatch in a gunfight, okay? The bad guy isn't going to wait for your little beeper, okay? He's going to start shooting at you when he wants to shoot at you. And I don't care how fast of a shooter you are. I don't care if you're quick draw, competition, police, SWAT, Navy SEAL. I don't care who you are. If your situational awareness is even gone for, say, like 1.5 seconds or even less than that, you can be killed by somebody, okay? A lot of criminals, a lot of suspects that kill police officers close range have guns in their hoodie jacket or whatever, and they just pull the gun out and shoot the cop, okay? How long did that take? Hardly any time at all. So all that competitive shooting sports, all that SWAT, all that, military stuff that you do on your YouTube channel and show how fast you are and how good you are and stuff like that, you have to understand that it only takes a second of not paying attention to lose your life. Some kid can pull a gun out of his pocket and shoot you right on the spot that has never seen a gun range, okay, that has never trained before. But he's got the advantage because his hands are in his pocket. He can just pull out the gun and shoot you right there. So you need to get rid of the chip on your shoulder. You need to start being humble and understand these things, okay? Now, even on Bill Wilson's channel, Ken Hackathorn had mentioned something that I mentioned many, many years ago, but nobody would listen to me. And what I mentioned is that people are starting to worship these timers and stopwatches to the point where that's all they think about. There's an overemphasis on speed and stopwatches to the point where that's all you think about. So you develop a mindset of speed. And that speed you're going to take into the real life as a police officer, as a competition shooter and stuff like that. And what we're finding out is that people are being shot that don't need to be shot. Why? Because police officers and stuff might be training competition shooting, and they're training to come out of that cover, like I was telling you, and just double tap everything. When in fact, there's probably a friendly, or there's probably somebody there that doesn't need to be shot, that's not a threat. Because the emphasis is so much on speed, and their training makes them want to be fast coming out of cover, that they don't use their cover properly. There is many, many times you can see on videos where SWAT members have been killed, police officers have been killed, where people rush cover and they get shot. So you can't rush your cover. And if you're training competition shooting, where you're always rushing from one stage to the next stage to the next stage, and you're just not staying with your cover and shooting accurately and properly, you're training yourself, for ambush. Or because you're shooting fast, you're training yourself to shoot somebody that probably doesn't need to be shot, because you're moving faster than you can assess what's going on. Because you have to make a decision. When you come around the corner and you got 3 targets, okay, let's say one of them has a gun, but the other 2 don't, and they're going to run. Well, if you shoot all 3 of them, well, The other guys weren't even close to you. They might not have even been a threat. So you're going to get yourself in trouble. Okay. So we need to train properly. We need to train with cover, and we need to stay with cover and not put so much of a damn emphasis on how fast you can run from stage to stage to stage to stage. Now, there's nothing wrong with shooting fast if it's accurate and you're only exposed to one target at a time. For example, you got 3 targets. You shoot that one target until you meet that standard of incapacitation while not exposing yourself to target number 2 and target number 3. Why? Because they might have guns. So when you rush around the corner like that and you're training yourself in competition to just burst out of your cover and double tap everything, thinking that magically everything's just going to fall down, everything's going to be incapacitated, what you're doing is you're training yourself the wrong way. That is not training. That is not defense training, okay? Defense training, you have offense and defense, okay? Offense is kind of like competition shooting. Defense is like combat shooting. Defense is defensive shooting. You're trying to defend yourself. What you're doing is you're going to cover, but you're shooting to protect yourself. Whereas competition shooting is more like offensive. You're rushing around cover and you're going to chase bad guys, okay? Do you need to chase bad guys as a private citizen? Not necessarily. Most times you don't have to. Most times you're just protecting yourself and staying with your cover, so you don't necessarily have to go chase bad guys. But we have to understand is there's a difference between offense and defense. And defensive shooting is not competition shooting, okay? Defensive shooting is saving your life, staying with your cover. It's not running from stage to stage to stage, getting out in the open and just shooting everything that's there. This isn't like John Wick, this stuff, where you got all these targets out in the open and you're just standing there. What if all them targets had guns? You know what I mean? It's freaking ridiculous, people. I mean, this stuff, television, even YouTube is ridiculous. Where people are shooting at these multiple targets out in the open with no cover. Now, is there a time when you won't have cover? Sure. But most of the time you will have a place where you can get to cover, okay? So there's exceptions to every rule. But the thing is that we're training people wrong, is what I'm saying. And if we could just let go of the emphasis on speed and beating the timer and trade it for good tactics, staying with your cover until you take out that first target, till you meet some kind of a standard that we can give you so that you can go and expose yourself to the second target only, but not the third. You're going to shoot that second target, do the same thing, shoot the third target, do the same thing. So like Robert Keller said, you could, Special Ops Army, he said you can only kill one person at a time. And he's right. You can only incapacitate one person at a time with a gun. If you got 3 people, you're out in the open. You can try that crisscross crap that people do where you give this guy 1 shot, give this guy 2, give this guy 1, give this guy. It doesn't work like that in real life. He said you have to kill one person at a time or incapacitate one person at a time, then go to the next, But you have to only expose yourself to one target at a time from cover. You don't just come around the corner and just start double tapping everything. That's poor training. And that's what we're doing today. We're training people the wrong way. We're training people basically to run fast out of cover rather than staying with cover. Almost all times, I'd say 9 out of 10 or way more than 9 out of 10 times where a real situation happens that you should stay behind cover, that you should not rush your cover, because competition shooting, you're going from this stage to this stage to this stage. You don't have to do all them stages in a real world defense situation. A private citizen doesn't have that in a real world situation where he goes from stage to stage to stage. You know what I mean? They don't have that in real life. In real life, everything's over within 3 seconds, within 7 yards, okay? And you run out of time before you run out of ammunition. Okay, it doesn't matter the caliber either, because bad guys, when they hear a shot go off, they don't want a quick gun review to find out what caliber you have, They don't want a quick gun review to find out, is it how many, what's the capacity? Is it a 5-shot revolver? Is it this? Is it that? And there's a lot of people that have misconceptions about small calibers and low capacity, like revolvers and stuff like that. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about that because they think about it, but they don't actually know what happens in real life. They assume that the bad guy knows, for instance, you have a revolver. Things happen so fast, he doesn't even know if you even have a revolver. All he knows is a shot went off and he's running, okay? Same thing with the 22. If a 22 goes off in the dark in a house somewhere that's being invaded, do you think the bad guys are saying, hey, that's just a 22 caliber. We should stay here and invade, right? No, they're long gone, okay? And the same thing with this this crap on the internet about ballistic gel, crap like that. Ballistic gel shows us somewhat the performance of bullets, but that doesn't determine the final outcome of the gunfight, okay? Because most of the times, okay, the gel doesn't feel pain. The gel is just going to stay there. The gel isn't going to run away like a real person would, okay? So stop putting all this emphasis on gel. Stop putting all the emphasis on speed, on competition shooting, and how fast you can go. What you want to do is you want to focus on absolute accuracy, and you don't want to go fast until you meet the absolute accuracy requirements to make it essentially a perfect hit. So that in real life, if you were under stress and something happened, that you already have that mindset of making sure I'm going to put 2 in the heart, 1 in the head, okay? I'm going to shoot the right way. I'm going to shoot accurately. Why? Because I've been training that way, and I've increased my speed a little bit. So you're not lightning fast like competition shooters and stuff like that, but at least you're hitting the target every time. Your accuracy is good. So like the old saying goes like this. It goes, take your time in a hurry, okay? So take your time in a hurry means you want to take enough time to be accurate, but you don't want to sit there and make sure that it's precision. You don't need precision accuracy. All you need is to put a couple holes in a 4-inch circle. Now, if you got 2 tight little rounds, in the center of that circle, then you want to increase your speed a little bit. But if you increase your speed so much that you throw it outside of that 4-inch circle, now what you want to do is slow down, go back and shoot that 4-inch circle at a cadence that you can handle. Everybody has a certain cadence. But the one that's going to win the gunfight and the one that's going to incapacitate the enemy is the one that puts more emphasis on accuracy. And even though they're not lightning fast, they're putting emphasis on accuracy so that they can have a vital hit, so that they can start the process of incapacitation. Like I said before, just because somebody gets shot in the heart, it doesn't mean that they can't still be a threat or run or respond. I mean, we know from deer hunting and we know from humans is that somebody can get hit and still have oxygen to their brain and stuff like that. So even though the process of incapacitation has started, you have to make sure that when you're behind cover, that when you put down somebody, you want to make sure that that person is incapacitated so that you can go to the next. And like I said before, competition shooting is not defense shooting. Defense shooting, we can stay with cover. We don't have to go after targets number 2 and 3. We can stay with our cover and defend. We don't have to rush cover. We don't have to come out like a competition shooter and just start shooting up the place, okay? If those 2 guys, if you have 3 guys, you got 1 guy down and the other 2 run, let them run. That's for law enforcement to deal with. But anyway, I'm going to keep adding to this. I'm keeping this sheet of paper so that I can modify this, get better and better, and explain it to people better, and trying not to overgeneralize, but trying not to undergeneralize either. So I want to keep it simple. But anyway, thank you for watching the video, and I'm probably going to modify videos like this. So if I delete this video, it means that I've got a better one that I'm making where I'm going to add more things on here where I list things that I feel that competition is shooting is wrong about. and the organizations never listen anyway. So they're just going to do their thing. They're not open to criticism. They're not open to, can something be done better? Can we, can we train students better? Like in these schools too, not just competition shooting, but these schools that people have, can we train people better? Or do we just stick with the old system? You know what I mean? So there's always going to be other people that have suggestions that might improve some of the training that's going on, whether it's competition shooting or training schools and stuff like that. But the problem is that the people of these schools and the people of these organizations have a certain bias that they stick to, and they're not open to criticism. They're not open to modifying or changing things as they see that there's better ways of doing things. They're not open to that at all. So that's why I'm bringing up the topic of flaws in competition shooting sports. And even on Bill Wilson's channel, Keith Hackathorn, he was saying the same thing that I said about how people are worshiping these timers, kind of like like the golden calf or something. That's all they think about is how fast can I do a mag change, how fast can I shoot, how fast can I run, that kind of thing. They're just focused only on that shot timer. So they're creating stress, but it's not the stress of a threat. It's a stress of that timer. So they're looking at the timer as the enemy, not the actual target that they're shooting and stuff like that. And the other thing about competition shooting too is that if you don't carry the same way that you carry when you're concealed carrying, like say in town and stuff like that, if you got a gun on your hip that can be reached really quickly and it's open carry and you have all these magazines, well, you're not going to do that going down to the store to pick up a gallon of milk. You're probably going to have a little 380 in your pocket with a couple mags, right? So you have to do things the way that you have to shoot based on what you would shoot like in the real world when you're not at the range. Because when you're at the range, everything's set up for you. You can memorize your targets. You can memorize all these stages. You can even pre-shoot these stages. Go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. You can pre-shoot them before the competition even starts. So here you are, the layout, where all the targets are. None of the targets are moving. None of the targets are shooting back at you and stuff like that. So, but anyway, thank you very much for watching, you guys.